Well, welcome everybody. My name is Rick Graziani. I'm here with some of my students from Cabrillo College and UCSC, and we're here with a good friend of mine that I've known for many years, Allan Johnson. And just to give you a little background on who Allan is. And I'm going to read a little bit from your bio here from Cisco Press. First of all, let me start off by saying I'll be promoting this book throughout. Allan writes these 31 days until your CCST. Well, now it's the CCST, but he also does 31 days until your CCNA exam as well. And this is a nice book because one of the things I like, and unlike the books I write that are way too thick, this you can get through. Okay. So he's the author of that book. Him and I have actually authored several books together. Including one of my all-time favorites. You know which one I'm talking about, right? Routing protocols and concepts.
The very first one, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so anyway, Allan's entered the academic world in 1999 after 10 years of being in business. He has both an MBA and a master's in education in training and development. He taught CCNA and CCNP courses. He lives in Corpus Christi, Texas. So currently Allan is the lead curriculum developer for Unicon, which they're the ones that do all the curriculum development, or the vast majority of curriculum development for the Cisco networking academies. So all the online curriculum you see and everything else, that's the group that he leads. And I've been working with Allan in that capacity for many, 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 many years. So welcome, Allan.
Thank you for inviting me. This is awesome.
And I got to point out something that after all these years of you and me on doing WebEx meetings and stuff, behind Allan, see that typewriter? Yeah. That's Legos. No. Yes, and the behind him, the Nintendo, is also Legos.
Yeah.
Now I will, just so you know, Allan is not Legos. So Allan is real. So
that represents my two loves. So I've always been an author, always done writing, so typewriter. I don't know, Rick, did you use a Corona or an electric typewriter when you were going to college to write?
When I was Corona, I used a manual typewriter. Yes, they think I use stone. They think I use stone tablets.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not that bad. I used a manual typewriter. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I remember writing papers and we had these cartridges that you could erase your mistakes. You'd stick a cartridge in and erase your mistake and take it out and put the ink cartridge back in and continue typing. All my bachelor's papers were written on, manual typewriter, electric typewriter. And on the Nintendo represents my major love as gaming, video gaming. So
they don't know about that. Just kidding. I'm still trying to get through Pong on video games. Really. So let's start with how'd you get into networking? What drew you into the world that you and I share?
Well, I really didn't know anything about networking. I was teaching at our high school here in Corpus Christi, and I was teaching basic Office apps, like Microsoft Office, and I was teaching a keyboarding class, and I was teaching business law, basically career and technology education classes. And this was in 99, 2000. And the career and technology person from the district came to visit me and said, we have this new program called Cisco that we'd like you to pilot here at the school. And we already have it piloted at another high school. I'd like you to go check it out and see if it's something you want to do. And I was a brand new teacher, first year teaching, all gung-ho to learn. And so I went and saw what they had at that other high school and really got excited about it. Started taking classes at Del Mar College, where I eventually became an instructor. And I felt like I was stepping behind the curtain, like in The Wizard of Oz, where I was learning everything about how networks worked, and it blew me away. I thought it was incredibly exciting. I still do. I think it's empowering to understand how technology actually works. And I fell in love with networking and I've been doing networking now for what, 24 years. Some area of networking for the last 24 years.
I think that's one of the cool things is that, you know, you don't have to have this strict technical background. Matter of fact, having a broad range, like your background in business and what, we'll talk about what you're doing today and stuff, but having that kind of background and doing curriculum development and working, as part of the curriculum development team and all the business aspects of everything right. that you have to, how has that all helped you in like what you're doing today outside the technical knowledge and stuff that you've gained over these many, many years?
Well, I worked in business prior to coming into networking. And I can't tell you how valuable having some business courses under your belt. Take an accounting course, take a finance course, take a marketing course, take a human resources course. Consider getting a minor in business, because that's the language of everything we do. Every job you have will have some business aspect to it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. And if you can talk to your managers in a business way, that just opens up more avenues for you. I would not be the Cisco account lead right now if I hadn't had that business acumen behind me. So, yeah.
And I've always appreciated there's people like yourself that know the business side. So,
absolutely.
And that's one of the things I wish I was more. But I spend a lot of my time on the more. I'm lucky. I get to just spend my time on the technical side.
Yeah.
But the jobs out there in this industry are more than just technical. There's account executives. I'm just in the process of purchasing some new routers and switches, Meraki included. And I have to interact with a salesperson who's also a systems engineer person. Knows the business side real well, but also has to know the networking product side real well. So there's a lot of possibilities in this. So tell us a little bit about your current role and what you're doing with as you mentioned, curriculum lead.
Well, so we have a lot of curriculum leads, but I basically run the Cisco account for Unicon. So all the contracts that we negotiate with Cisco, I'm responsible for doing that. And one of them is the curriculum development team, which I also participate on. So I help with the full design of the content. I actually write still sometimes. I do a lot of reviewing and editing. But my main focus is making sure that we are able to continue the level of quality that we have been able to produce over the past 25 years with Cisco, and continue that reputation. And Rick, you're a huge part of that. You and other people that have been with us for many, many years. That quality comes from all the people that I have working with me to get these. It's a huge task to develop a curriculum, an online curriculum, as you well know.
Yeah, yeah. So we have, for those of you that may not be familiar or listening that may not be familiar, the Cisco Networking Academy started in 1997. And actually, Cabrillo College and myself was one of the first 25. But anyways, the Cisco Networking Academy through website, netacad.com and now skillsforall.com, and we'll be merging into something else, converging into one group of online curriculum. But there's online curriculum, both instructor-led and both independent learning courses for all kinds of curriculum. And it really it started with one set of curriculum, that was the CCNA, Cisco Certified Network Associate, which at the time was 4 different courses. But so I know I got involved with Cisco many years ago with this, and so did Allan, but it's writing this online curriculum for Cisco that is now all over the world and many different courses. So I mentioned CCNA and CCST. What are your thoughts on certifications and for students that are just starting out or finishing up their degrees or whatever? What kind of certifications would you suggest? And if you talk a little bit about the CCST versus CCNA.
Well, okay, so the CCST the CCST certification is something that I think you can get right away if you're interested in getting a certification in networking. It's something that you can get. I think if you have Rick as an instructor and you take Introduction to Networking Technologies with Rick, or I guess we call it just Introduction to Networking now. Mm-hmm. We always change the names, but anyway, that course, along with maybe some other little bit of prep, is enough for you to go sit for the CCST, especially if you're a strong student. Somebody that, when I mean strong, is that you're motivated, not necessarily that you're smart, but you're motivated, kind of like what happened to me when I went to Del Mar and started taking that and started learning about how networks work. If you're fired up, you're not gonna have any problem passing the CCST. It's a relatively easy exam to pass. However, if you really are focused on networking as your career path, maybe wait, because it's expensive. Unless you just want that feather in your cap, wait and just take the CCNA. CCNA by far is the most highly respected certification in the industry. And it's well worth the effort if you're considering a career in networking or any field that is tangential to networking, like cybersecurity or programming or data or cloud. Any of those fields rely heavily on networking. And if you're a programmer, you need to know TCP/IP. No better way really to learn that. I mean, you can take a straight on just TCP/IP course, but networking will teach you how it all works, especially if you have solid instructional material like the curriculum that gives you hands-on labs and packet tracer activities. And a solid instructor is always, but you're covered there. So,
well, they've got the material. I'm not sure about the instructor. But
so I'm not sure I would recommend pursuing CCNP until you actually have a job that requires it. Let your future employer pay for your further certifications. CCNA will get you the interview, along with other things that they're asking for. If they ask for a CCNA, that at least puts you in the bucket that you got the CCNA. But that's not everything you need in order to get a job. And there's another thing I think it's really important to understand for students that are trying to put together a skill set that's attractive. You want to think about being a T-shaped person in tech. So what I mean by T-shape, and you might have heard this before, it's like, okay, T. So the vertical is something that you dive deep in, you become really good at, networking, if that's what you choose to do. And the horizontal part of the T is a broad spectrum of other things that are tangential to networking, but are also like core. Your writing abilities, your communication abilities, your soft skills or essential skills that employers are looking for. But also things like, if you're going to go deep in networking, consider Python. Consider cybersecurity, even a certain cybersecurity. Consider data analytics, consider getting a certification in cloud. So that gives you, and you become more of a generalist in other areas so that you can talk about those areas, especially when it gets down into the meat of doing the actual job. You'll really appreciate that breadth of knowledge that you have. And then you are the specialist on a team that would really help. I can't overstate how important programming is in your toolkit. It's something that I lack, and I work on Python training. I work on web development training. I work on data analytics, because all of these things are hot, right? I work on cloud, but I wish I had gotten a computer science degree. I have an MBA and I have a master in education. And I did actually start a master's in science. And I remember I was taking an assembly language class. And then I got hired full-time by Unicon to start working. So I set that aside. So, but I can't tell you how important programming is. So whether that's something like Python or simple scripting is good too, but just so that you can get a sense of how to know your way around a block of code. If you do anything in tech these days, you'll need those basic understandings of how a program works.
I think that's where you students are much more fortunate than a lot of the people that are working in the industry now, even senior network engineers. And over my years of doing presentations and things, there's a lot of insecurity, imposter syndrome, not you people, but the seasoned network engineers. And as we move into networking becoming more software driven, that's a skill that a lot of network engineers lack, especially those that did not come from a computer science background. So you coming in with any kind of programming knowledge, I know a lot of you at, especially, both Cabrillo and UCSC have taken, your fair share of programming classes. So you're well positioned in many ways. So you can bring skill sets that, that others, that are doing the job right now, maybe are lacking a little bit.
Another one I didn't mention I think it's absolutely crucial is Linux. So if you're going to do anything, so if you look at the iOS, if you have, it's Linux based. So a lot of the commands you do on a router, you can do on a Linux box. And you can download and launch a VM and have your own Linux environment to play with. I think it's a crucial skill to have, especially if you're going to go into security, any kind of security field, you have to have Linux. So,
and even Cisco iOS, Cisco upper end devices are now including a Linux shell in the device itself. So, you mentioned CCST exam. Let's kind of just start with that, and also applying to the CCNA. If I was a student wanting, I've taken Introduction to Networking, maybe a couple of other classes, but do you have any thoughts on how somebody should actually prepare? Besides, of course, there's a book that they may want to get, but and I think there's great books, and please, reference your book. But, would you self-study, study groups, forums, any suggestions?
Well, so that book is meant, it really is meant for you're 30 days out from you're gonna go sit for the exam. So you've already done all the studying, right? So you've already taken your course, or you're well aware of what the certification requires, and you've taken coursework, or you've bought in books, or whatever it is. And now you're just not comfortable enough to go sit for the exam, and you want a study guide. And that's what this is for. That's the gap it fills. It's for somebody who's getting their first certification and has a lot of anxiety about it. and we'll just take one objective at a time, and let's walk through. You already learned all this stuff. And in the book, it tells you the study resources I recommend. Russ White's book, and as well as locations in the Cisco Networking Academy curriculum to refer for those. So I think prepping, finding a course that you really like, and an instructor you really like. Study groups, that never appealed to me, but if you're a social animal, absolutely. If you're an extrovert, if study groups work for you. What did work for me was doing labs on it with a team and troubleshooting with a team. So that was huge, and getting your hands on equipment. But I have to tell you, the CCST is not heavy on configuration. It's more knowledge based. You do need to know a little bit of configuration. You need to know your way around the iOS. You need to know how to configure a wireless router, which you can do. You can practice at home, right? You can practice on your parents or your own wireless router. I think what the CCST gets at is the foundations of networking that we teach in ITN, but not as deep as ITN goes. So that's why I say if you take ITN and have a strong instructor with you, or you're a self-motivated student, then you've got 90% of what the CCST covers. And Rick and I did put together a book.
You did?
Look at this massive thing. This is Networking Essentials. Like it goes, we did. It says right there, Cisco Certified Support Technician Networking. And if I go to the authors, now this is, so we're contributing authors because it's Cisco Networking Academy, right? So it's the online curriculum in book form. And so he's right there, Rick.
Oh, okay.
He forgot he did this book.
All I do is write. I don't know where this stuff actually goes.
But it's a monster book. I mean, again, I think you find the study resources that you really like. If you like video, Cisco Networking Academy is probably not the place to go. Not yet, anyway. Besides buying books, I would strongly recommend, if you're already watching Rick's videos on YouTube, then that's a good start. But I think Rick will back me up on David Bomball, Keith Barker. Yes. They both have excellent YouTube channels. Network Chuck, who I think Dave Bomball supports, or Network Chuck's, he's got this big, huge beard. He's got a great personality. He's been around.
I'll make a list of these for everybody today. Also, Wendell Odom.
Well, now Wendell's got, he's just really starting to kick off his YouTube channel.
Yeah. But Kevin Wallace does a lot.
Kevin Wallace, yeah. Jeremy's IT Lab is really good on YouTube. He's got, and if you like Packet Tracer, he's got a brand new 2.5 hour Packet Tracer lab where he covers every single one of the CCNA objectives in the lab. Very cool. A friend of Rick and I's, Dan Alberghetti, he's got Dan's Courses YouTube channel. So there are so many resources. So if you're motivated to learn networking, nothing's going to stop you, because there are so many people out there that are willing to help you.
So tell me a little bit about what you do on a daily basis, besides pinging me and saying, Rick, are you done with this yet? That takes up a lot of his day.
Yeah.
Or tell me about the process of how we develop curriculum, who's involved as far as the stakeholders.
Yeah, let's talk about a fun one, right? CCNA. So, by the way, there is a new cert coming that was announced, the CCST IT support, which is Cisco is positioning to be like A plus, that's A plus. Now CompTIA doesn't they won't certify our IT Essentials curriculum anymore. And so Cisco said, okay, we're going to create our own cert. And so it's called the CCST IT support. And that we're just starting to get geared up um, to figure out how we're going to develop that curriculum. So how does that all start? Well, how do they come up with this blueprint that they say these are the exam topics that you need to be good at? Well, they do a job task analysis where they get a bunch of Cisco subject matter experts and then people in the field that are looking for those job candidates. Rick, have you ever done a job task analysis? Okay, so
Yeah, it was part of that for the CCNP.
CCMP, yeah. So that's a big, long process. It's very important to curriculum development. We have to have some sort of blueprint that tells us what is going to be on the certification. And so we sit back and wait for those GTAs to complete. And they go through multiple iterations. It can take 6 months to a year to come up with a good exam certification blueprint. That comes to us. So yesterday we had the meeting with Cisco stakeholders saying the CCST IT support has been released and we're ready to start development. And so our next step is to put together a detailed design outline. And Rick's very familiar with this. But basically, we take those exam objectives. They're not in any pedagogical order. So you'll see domain 1, domain 2, it's not in a teaching order. When I say pedagogical, that means what are we going to teach first? What are we going to teach next? What are we going to teach? So we have to figure out, all right, how are we going to cover all these exam objectives and have it still make sense to the student? And we start from A and get to B and then C, then D. So that process takes a long time. I often tell people when they ask how long does it take to develop a curriculum? I say, well, it takes half of the time is just designing what we're going to do before we ever do anything. Although Rick usually goes and starts writing anyway, which is fine. We always want, that's fine. However, our subject matter experts work best. So Rick will write and then figure out what the design's going to be. And I mean, that works. That works too. So we have to have some sort of blueprint so that some sort of detailed design outline so that we can say to the people that are paying for it, all right, and our project manager can break it all down into pieces and start pricing out every piece. So for videos, for a packet tracer activity, for so many pages of content, and then we tell them how much it's going to cost. And it invariably costs them more because they change things midstream, always. So if there's one thing should know about client interactions, or really any business interactions, that change is constant. So it's always changing. And so we lay out a blueprint, and then it's just like an architect when they're building a house, but they have to have blueprints. That's why we use the term blueprint. Then we start to develop the content and go through multiple iterations of that. And we use instructional designers, artists, subject matter experts, people that are good at NetLab, people that are good at Packet Tracer. We have a full team. We have a featured team of experts. Rick's a member of those. Rick's actually an employee of Unicon as well. He's a part-time employee. But we have contractors that come in and help us to get all of that development done. And so it's quite an extensive process. And then once you get the content built, you go through a quality assurance process where make sure that all the links work, make sure all the pages work, make sure everything works right before you go to what we call GA, which is general availability. And it releases on Skills for All or netacad.com. By the way, Rick, I just learned last week, their Skills for All will go away. And they will, so it'll always be netacad.com. It'll look like Skills for All, but it's going to be netacad.com.
I'll show you these platforms at the end of this for those of you that are not familiar with Cisco Network Academy online curriculum.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then what happens after we release is Rick and I get to write a book about it.
And that's a whole nother process.
Yeah. And that's complete. So it's a good point to understand that when you have a job, always be looking for side gigs. Be above board with your employer. Like my employer knows that I write for Pearson. So the book, although Cisco Networking Academy is named on there, Unicon doesn't pay me to do this. This is a side gig. I mean, I do that at nights and on weekends. And Rick for his IP6, you do this on nights and weekends. It's your college.
I did that on my sabbatical. That one.
That's right, you did. Yeah. So, but this one's all mine. So, Cisco Networking Academy didn't do any of that. So
when we create curriculum for the Cisco Networking Academy for Cisco, that belongs to Cisco.
Yeah.
So it used to be they put our names on the books. Now they put their name on the book and make us what they call companion authors. So they're kind enough, though, Pearson's kind enough to typically use the authors that created the content for Cisco to be involved in the writing of the book.
Yeah. So. And they take all the royalties too, don't they?
Yeah, they take a lot of the royalties. Yeah. That's why I dress as nice as I do. So just in the last few minutes that we have here, any advice you want to give to students that are starting out, learning this stuff? You gave some great, I like that, the T, I never knew that, the T thing. But I know a lot of students, feel like everybody knows more than them. And, and I always tell them they got an incredible skill set that you're bringing already, that a lot of seasoned network engineers don't have. But is there any thoughts that you'd like to give?
Well, I assume, are your students in a degree program?
Some are, some different, some are community college, degree, non-degree. Some people are getting just more job skills. And I have students, also a lot of students here too, UC Santa Cruz, that are getting bachelor's degrees and even master's degrees, computer science, computer engineering. What's the TIM? Technology Information Management. All right. And things like that. So wide range.
Yeah, well, that's great, because you can't underestimate the power of a strong, generalized program of study, such as what a college degree does show to an employer is that you don't quit. All right. So if you went to college, and usually the person who's interviewing you also went to college and has a degree, so they understand how difficult it is to actually stick to it and get a degree. But the generalized program of study, such as in a liberal arts degree, like my brother worked in technology. He's retired now. He worked in technology doing systems implementation, knew the tech backwards and forwards. His degree was in liberal arts. He didn't get a computer science degree. And then he went and got a CPA. He studied for a CPA, a certified public accountant. But he did system implementation. So you never know. So take your core subjects seriously, especially writing and being able to do presentations, because they will help you become a more rounded and valuable contributor, not only to your job, but to society as well. Get together with real people in real life as often as you can. A traditional college experience will help you with that. Although since the pandemic, we've all gone online so much, which is good in many ways, but it's also, you lose that aspect of being with people. College will help you make lasting relationships that might last a lifetime. Uh, that being said, if college is not the thing for you, uh, you don't particularly want that, certifications provide a way for you to demonstrate that you at least have enough knowledge to pass some difficult exams. The respected exams like CISSP, the security exam, or CCNA. Put together a portfolio of your projects. If you have project-based classes, keep all those projects, especially if you got really good grades and a lot of accolades about them from either your peer reviews or from your instructors. That means it's good. Keep that stuff handy because you never know when you're going to have it to pull out. Have you built a program? Have you created a mod for a game? Developed a website, set up a personal cloud environment. These all help show what you're capable of doing. It's just fell out of my brain. But anyway, I think you get the idea. No, I know the reason why I say to develop that portfolio is because I know at Unicon when we hire somebody for a specific skill set, you will be asked to demonstrate that. I mean, in real time, like you're on a Zoom call or you go to their office, but now it's going to be on a Zoom call. You will share your screen and they will give you a JavaScript program or a Python program or a problem statement and watch you to see how you proceed in troubleshooting that problem or implementing a solution. So portfolios help you with that kind of thing. Anything else?
Yeah, I was just going to mention the project that a lot of them are doing, especially my UCSC and some of my Cabrillo students, that's campus network architecture that we're building from the ground up on Packet Tracer is something that I think make an excellent portfolio, something to put in your, to show employers.
You can, and YouTube channels are free. You can do a presentation, just you and Packet Tracer. You and some labs, some lab equipment, NetLab, Rick's NetLab setup, and just explain a concept. Start off small, and that you just build up a portfolio of YouTube videos, and so the prospective employer can see you engaging. Because frankly, you're always going to have to be able to, once you get into a certain level of business, be able to talk to clients. And other team members and be able to collaborate. And so, YouTube is a great place to get practice.
And I think those pictures and videos that you're doing here as part of the club and here is a great way to show a lot of that.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And get feedback from people going, man, you said and like and.
Yeah, well, that's, yeah. I say okay between, if you notice, right? I say okay between every slide. Somebody pointed that out to me and I still.
Yes, you do.
So, yeah. Okay, click. So, well, Allan, I want to thank you for spending a little time with us. And, I really appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun.
And I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon, probably this weekend. So, okay. So anyway, thank you so much, my friend. Say hi to Becky for me. And
y'all enjoy your Ethernet lab.
Yeah, we're going to do Ether channel.
Ethernet. Yeah. What? Yeah. Ether channel.
Ether something.
Ether.
Well, thank you so much, my friend.
You bet.
And I'll be talking to you soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.